And we are back for another episode of the Baschamania podcast. I am your host, Justin Bash, and you are in for a treat today. I've mentioned it before, but part of the reason I wanted to launch this podcast was to use the access I've been blessed with after a decade plus of running my digital agency and bring on the best wrestlers and bring great conversations directly to your headphones. Today is no exception. We have the two-time and reigning USA Wrestling World Team member Zain Retherford on the show. This morning, I catch up with Zain just a week removed from the 2019 World Championships. Before we bring Zain in, guys, please go subscribe, leave a 5-star review, follow the show wherever you listen to the podcast. It would mean the world to me. I'm also going to be doing some Baschamania apparel and giving some of it away soon. So if you're interested in that, hit me up. Make sure you're subscribed to the show if you want to get some. All right, let's get this thing started.
It's Baschamania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when Baschamania runs wild? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
Zain Retherford, how are you, my man?
Great. How are you?
Good. How does it feel to be back in the U.S.?
Oh, man, I missed American soil for sure.
Do you get? I mean, you've had your fair share of international travel. Do you get used to it? Like, I've never left the country, so I have no clue what it's like. But I feel like I'm so needy; it'd be hard for me.
Oh no, you get used to it. For me, I like coffee, so as long as a place has coffee, I'm usually pretty content. But like some of these European countries, they like smaller coffees, so I'm not used to that. But
yeah, it's more like espresso over there, right?
It's espresso or these tiny little cups. You know, some of them like Germany, they drink a lot of like milk in their coffee. So
and soon,
different.
And soon, I imagine now that you're engaged, which congratulations again. I know I've congratulated a few times, but I imagine too. Is your fiance going to be able to travel with you sometimes?
Definitely Tokyo. If that's the plan.
Yeah.
But this last trip, she's Marine ROTC here at Penn State, so she wasn't. I don't think it would be ideal to travel to a place like Kazakhstan right now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I want to go back. I want to kind of start the Zain story. Let's go back. You grew up in PA. You went to high school in PA. You went to college, obviously, in PA. What got you started? How old were you when you started wrestling?
So I started briefly in kindergarten, and I thought it was originally WWE. I like The Undertaker.
Wait, so you were a WWE fan?
Oh yeah, The Undertaker, like rolling his eyes back in his head. I loved it.
Dude, that's too funny because I was never any good, but that's why I started wrestling. Because all through elementary, middle school, I loved WWE, so I wrestled middle school and high school, all because WWE. What?
Yeah, you wanted it.
What? I'm trying to think. So what year was it when you were watching The Undertaker? Is it like the late 90s?
Yeah, I guess so. Early 2000. Like, we didn't really have like TV at my house like at that time. But I remember going to my buddy's house and he had a few older brothers and we'd be watching it over there. And I was we were like, I don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, like stunner each other. He had a trampoline, so we would just be like slamming each other. I'm like, why don't I do wrestling? That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Do this for real. Yeah.
So the Attitude Era got you. That was like the Vince McMahon, Steve Austin. The Attitude Era got you. All right, so you're young WWE fan. If you're talking like kindergarten, like really young. So
yeah.
How did you see how to word this? How did you start getting so good?
Yeah. Well, I guess so. Kindergarten. Then it wasn't WWE. It hit me at some point. This was different. So then I went to my first tournament. And I remember I got pinned my first match, and I came up in the bleachers, and I just pinched my finger in the bleachers and started crying. And my dad was like, you know what? Enough of this. Like, if you're gonna cry and waste our time, we're not doing this. So he didn't let me finish the season. I was bugging him all kindergarten, or first grade. I was bugging him again to come back out. He said, "No, we got work on the farm. I don't want you doing that. Come back to me next year."
So you were working on the farm that young?
Yes.
What kind of stuff did you do when you're that little?
At that time, we were mostly we were just selling produce, mostly like truck farming. So my dad would buy it at an auction, and we would kind of resell it.
Yeah. So you helped with that then?
I helped with that pretty much. My one sister Hannah and we pretty much grew up doing that. Like selling corn, and kind of learned the business stuff early on. I learned how to count change like that when I was like 5 years old.
So he didn't want you wrestling because he wanted you to work on the farm.
Yeah, there was just a lot of work at that time for our family. We just moved, and yeah, there's a lot going on. So, but second grade on is pretty much when I stuck with it. He let me come back out.
And then at what point? I mean, you lost what, like 3 times in all of high school? Like I lose 3 times in a weekend. Like how did you get to that point to where by high school? I mean, and then in your high school career, you went out, won a Cadet World Championship in what, 2012?
2012, yeah.
So how did it evolve? It's like, I like doing this and having fun. Was it going to a bunch of camps? Was it natural? Like, what was that process like to elevate yourself?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like some of these guys, I remember wrestling or seeing around growing up, like Vincenzo and, Nolfer, I would say were pretty good growing up at a young age. I was kind of knocking on the door. But I would always lose. Like I lost to Nolf, and Nolf was a few years younger than me at a junior tournament. I think he might have been like 8 or 9, and I was 10 or 11. He beat me then, and so I was like, I worked hard, but I didn't start getting good until 7th grade. It's kind of weird. So Darian Cruz was my training partner here for the World Championships, and so I would say when I started getting good is when I kind of started training for him in 7th grade. I knew that he had won a junior state title, and my dad, started I was kind of I had like farm strength, but not wrestling strength.
Yeah, you can crush an apple in your hand. I'd say that's a little bit of farm strength.
I guess. But I got tired of, losing to some of these kids close. So we just started doing a lot more push-ups. I kind of trained for him that year. So 7th grade is when I won my first junior state title, PJW, and that's kind of when I was like, wow, I want to go to college. I want to do this full time. That's kind of when I started taking off of me.
So you start training with, it seems like a lot of elite wrestlers that are at your level now, they did the thing where they go to 47 different camps. They're having 87 different private instructors. It sounds like you just did the basics. You worked hard. You did more push-ups. Did you ever really flirt with that hardcore circuit training where you're all at these different camps, and was it always just you did?
Yeah. So about that same time is when my dad started. So grew up in a real rural town in Pennsylvania, and so there wasn't much. There wasn't many training partners. Mostly we traveled for training partners. So if we knew, I don't know, one kid at the time was Freddie Stroker that I trained with a good bit.
Yep.
This is at Cornell. Vincenzo. I knew Sunshiro Abe had a club, and there was a lot of good youth wrestlers. Basically, my dad we would go to these tournaments, and we would chase kids down for practice. So we'd find this kid's tough. He trains here in Pittsburgh, which is a 5-hour drive. You want to travel this weekend and do a camp? Let's do it. So we didn't chase down the instructors per se. We more chased down partners because we just wanted to learn. And kind of get our hands on guys.
And then did you know, I assume if you were willing to travel within the state of Pennsylvania, that you're constantly looking for the best places in the state to get better. Is that what led you to want to go to Penn State?
Penn State was, so I used to, my main club, I would say, growing up was, I would go to Ken Chertow's a good bit, and there was one of my coaches there, Ian Assell, he coached at Chertow's, so I would travel up there a good bit to, that was my consistent club. And so, like, Penn State, we would often, like, go to the matches afterward. They were not like they are now. Like, it was pretty easy to get into a match. Just like, oh, let's go to a match,
right.
The week of. But, like, I really liked Penn State wrestling. Coach Kale and the coaching staff was not there yet.
I was going to say, that has to be like what, like mid-2000s then? Because Cal came over in 2010. It sounds like this time frame's like mid-2000s.
Yeah, mid-2000s. So I didn't really, I don't know. I had my eyes on them. My family loved Penn State football growing up. We would always be like having that on the radio as we're, selling pumpkins and whatnot. So I always liked Penn State. I think a lot of people in Pennsylvania do, just naturally, but I didn't know that I was going to go here for college or anything.
It had to be a pretty easy recruiting mission for Cal once, knowing you already wanted to be at Penn State, or not knowing you wanted to be at Penn State, but having an admiration for Penn State. Like someone like RBY had no clue that Penn State even existed, because when you grow up
Sure.
and you're young, you're just kind of submerged in your local culture. Like you were submerged in the Penn State culture. Was it something that you were kind of pursuing out, or was it something where Cal and the coaches reached out to you and you're like, this is a no-brainer, I love Penn State?
Yeah, it was the latter. That I was definitely, I was looking at other schools, to be honest. I initially, I would say early in my high school career, I was kind of looking at some Ivy League schools. My parents I was the first of my family to get a college education, so they were kind of pushing that side of things.
Right.
When I initially started, and so I was looking at Harvard or keep my grades up, and at some point I realized that I wanted to pursue what I'm doing now, the Olympic side of things after college, and so then I began looking at schools that offered that and had guys that were making it happen on the senior level.
Yep.
And honestly, Penn State kind of came in last minute. Schools like Iowa or Oklahoma State were kind of looking at me a little bit earlier, and I was really considering them. And then it's kind of Penn State came to my house, and I was just kind of I knew from the first visit that that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
It was kind of playing hard to get. Yeah, but yeah.
And I imagine that was what, like 2013, right? When you went there? So
2012 summer.
Okay. So Cal had just kind of taken the reins. I remember that first year was like get acclimated. The second year he wins. So
sure. You
saw that climb right from the beginning, and you hopped right in.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the climb. I was lucky enough to be at the NCAA Championships when it was in Philly in 2011, and I thought it was really cool, like what they had done, what Penn State had done. They won the title that year for the first time, and I don't know. I didn't really. They weren't coming after me, so I was like, well, I guess I'm going somewhere else. I guess I'm going out of state.
Right.
Another guy that was Anthony Ashnault is kind of a guy that I heard that they were recruiting for my weight class. So I was like, well, I guess they got their spots covered. Better start looking elsewhere. And somewhere along the line, they came in. Wasn't really the school or what they had done that attracted me. It was just who they were when they came and visited. They were the only. Cal was like Coach Carroll was the only coach that had asked me, what my goals were when they came and visited. Everyone else was kind of selling me on the school.
Yeah.
Rather than like, what are your goals? Well, we can help you get there, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I mean, going through the collegiate career, you just absolutely dominated. Like every year, it was such a level of domination. How do you, by at this point, you're already a Cadet World Champion. You only had 3 losses in all of high school. How do you keep the mindset to keep that level of success? So many times success, I feel like there's so many ebbs and flows where somebody will have a high or 2 highs, or then they'll have a bunch of lows. A couple more highs, a lot of lows. How do you consistently try to maintain the perspective that, I mean, mindset is so crucial. So what is it that keeps your perspective going into college that, I mean, growing up where I grew up, I saw a lot of kids that were great in high school, and they kind of sucked themselves out from cutting weight and everything else, and they flopped in college. Like, how do you hit that pinnacle and then continue to stride?
Yeah, I don't know. I just pretty much kept doing what I was doing, but except I bought into, the coaching staff and, their philosophy, their training methods. I think I trained harder, definitely more, I don't know, just different in high school. More running and stuff like that, where Penn State, I just kind of, I don't know, I bought in. I would say being coachable helps a lot. And I don't know, I think some people lose sight of what they want. I think if you're clear on what you want, it's pretty easy to not get sidetracked. I just put the work in, and a lot of kids don't go to class and make it harder on themselves, and they need to make it. School's not that hard,
Right.
So, just go to class.
How do you get better at wrestling? Go to class. But it's true. I mean, you got to do the things you've had success in to continue. It's just always fascinating to see somebody have success and then continued on the next level. And now you're getting ready to do that again, where, okay, you have this dominant collegiate career where you're the NCAA most dominant wrestler, Hodge Trophy winner, and now you got to adjust again. Now it's time to reacclimate to a new level of wrestling in a different atmosphere. I talk about with all these guys that come on the show, and it's like, it's so interesting for me to see, like, in high school, you're ignorant to what's going to happen in practice. In college, you're a bit more aware, but then when it gets to the senior level, like, it's all in yourself per se. You obviously have coaches, but what is that transition like?
You got to take more responsibility for your career. The more you get, I guess you just get more freedom the further you go. You start this stuff in elementary school, your parents are coordinating everything for you. Then at some point you get to high school where, hey, I can drive myself to practice. You get a little bit more freedom.
Yep. And
it just progressively, you get to college where you're living on your own now. You're not at home. But there's still like a schedule of, I got class. I still have coaches that, expect me to do this. I still got a team aspect. And now it's like, you still kind of have all that. But, the focus is on the college guys, and you just need to take responsibility for your career, the further and more freedom you get.
Does it make it easier or harder that you don't have the structure of college throughout the day? Is it less of a burden?
I would compare it to being self-employed,
Interesting.
I guess if you want to be self-employed, and you could, do it however you want. You can make it as free as you want. You could just, travel and hitchhike across the nation, or you could make it as structured as you want. So, I don't know. I like it better. I don't have to go to class. but you need to make sure you're doing it responsibly. You need
Yeah.
to be disciplined with your time. Make sure that it's pretty easy. I pretty much just live in rec hall, and then
What do you do when
pretty,
you're not at practice? Because you're training like twice a day, I know. What do you do when
Yeah.
you're not there? Like, do you have hobbies that you're pursuing, or is it kind of just filling downtime?
A lot of it's downtime. Yeah, I don't know. Watch TV. I'm pretty much at rec from 9 to 5, and I'll go home in between to just eat some lunch, read. So,
But it's really a
I don't know.
full time.
Talk to
It's
people.
like a full time job. I mean, if you figure
Yeah, but-
from 9 to 5, it's
Yeah, you're pretty much focused on either practice or recovering, and then you're home at 5 and eat dinner and unwind for the day. But it's awesome. Get to do what I love.
yeah, and then it's got to be cool too because your destiny or you're controlling your own fate. You're putting the work in. You're recovering. You're able to do everything you can. That your success or failure is in your hands. How much adjustment is there constantly? Like you didn't do what you wanted to do at the World Championships. Is it something that you just try to? And I heard your interviews after, so I kind of know the answer. But is it something that you can just say, okay, I just need to dial into this one area, or do you take a more widespread approach? Because I'm neurotic, so where you are smarter than me, and you'd be able to say, okay, I think I got out techniqued. I just need to be out techniqued. Do you at the same time feel comfortable with nutrition and everything else, or is it something that makes you look at the whole approach when you're doing that?
After every competition, win or lose, I kind of do an inventory of, where my mind was at, how the preparation was, all that kind of stuff. And so I did that this trip, and I felt everything was where I wanted it to be. Like my weight was really good. My training felt great. I was in great shape. My technique, I felt fresh. So everything was good, but I think I just got I was down 6-0 right away. Good. He's been there before, and I don't know. One position was parterre. I got turned twice, and I had a chance for a trap arm gut, which usually is a turn or at least one or a few. And I didn't get a turn off of it, so like those little. And at the end of the day, I was 1 point away. So just those little things, being just a little bit more stingy there, would have made the difference in the match. So, you put all this, I was eating right. You can do all the right things, outside of it, but at the end of the day, it's whoever puts more points on the board. So just a good reminder of that. And I don't think I really need to change much, which is I wrestled Rashidov, who ended up winning the tournament.
Right.
But he technically, everyone kind of knows he lost his first match. Like I don't know, it was very unconvincing 4 points against Aliyev.
To say unconvincing is an understatement, right?
Yeah, but regardless, he got a second chance, and I think in tournaments like this, you give me, you give the Cuban a second chance in the match that he lost. Any one of those guys could have won that tournament. So when it's the weight class is that close, it's just I don't think there's much I need to change. Just got to do it next time. Got to put more points on the board.
And you got to be excited too that the Olympic trials now are in Penn State.
Yes, very excited.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, you.
All I was going to say is that it's got to be exciting because at this point, it's hard for somebody like me who's outside of it or watching from the outside to comprehend because I pick favorites, and at times it gets hard to do. You're close with a couple of guys or you're friends with a couple of guys, and like 65's no different. And a lot of you guys are very likable, like you, Yanni. There's so many like good character in wrestling. How do you separate that when you're trying to compete, knowing that like me, Yanni, Oliver, Ashnell, we all have the same aspirations, and that's to make it to Olympic trials. And none of you guys hate each other. You guys all respect each other so much. How do you keep that separate of trying to like compete, knowing, or maybe you don't even keep it in mind, but how do you keep that in mind that like everybody's competing for this same goal? How do you dial in to make it that I know how good these guys are, I know how bad they want it, and I still have to beat them? And does it give you like, do you feel like you have home field advantage now? I mean, I know I would. If I went to Penn State and the trials are at the Bryce Jordan Center, I 100% feel like I have home field advantage.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think about it when. So, for instance, like you're saying, these other guys that are my weight class, we all respect each other, but some people, one person is going to get the spot, and there's some very good competition that's not going to get the spot at every weight this year. It's just the Olympic trials get so competitive, it drops down to 6 weight classes, and some very good guys that could win are going to be left out, just the way this is going to be. So I think for me, I just stay clear on what I want. I can't worry about that. It's just, they're just opponents, and that's all it is. This is wrestling. If you want the spot, it's what you got to do. And I think it gets tricky, when, like, luckily for me, I don't really have anyone as much of an issue with this as, like 74 is going to be for Penn State. There's a bunch of guys that train together that are probably going to see each other,
Yeah.
Vincenzo, Mark Hall, guys like that, all the same weight class, and very likely that they're going to wrestle. So, like, I would say that would be more tricky, wrestling a teammate and knowing that, one of us is going to come out of this on the other side, one's not. Bekside Abdurakhmanov and Franklin Gomez just had that happen at the World Championships first round.
Yeah, because they're both Penn State guys. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah. So it's not like that's the part of the sport that is hard when you got someone that you're really close to and that you compete alongside every day, and you're gonna have to wrestle. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it, but I know there's gonna be that aspect of it for this trials as well.
And it's a good thing to bring up too. Like when it comes to bringing guys in to train with you, it's such a double-edged sword. It seems like it's like, okay, I want to bring the best guys in to train me or train with me, but and you kind of saw it happen with Yanni and Oliver at Cornell, where you bring someone in because iron sharpens iron, but then you got to wrestle them. And, sometimes it's easier than others. Like, you kind of have guys like, let's say, Burroughs and James Green. Well, Jordan's now sitting in the finals, so James has to win the whole challenge tournament to get there. So it's at least a little more unlikely. It's not like, oh, hey, we could go in the first round. How do you not get too close to somebody if, like, I don't know. You don't want to bring someone in, but at the same time, like, iron sharpens iron. How do you balance that?
I think that's the struggle with, like, USA wrestling in this country, like the freestyle aspect, because we all, we're in college and we're all competitors, and then at some point it switches to where, we're training together, we're Team USA, one team here, we're going up against Russia, and that's the enemy now. So that's like the weird dynamic in the United States with, college wrestling. You got that where these other countries don't. So I feel like that's where their iron sharpens iron over there. And we're kind of just learning how to do that. For me, I never worry about it. Whenever I'm at the Olympic Training Center, there's guys in my weight class that I'll probably have to wrestle. And still, I want to wrestle with them. I don't want to, like, dodge people.
Right.
I mean, to me, dodging, like saying no to somebody that would want to wrestle me. Like, say someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to go? Do you want to wrestle today?" And I said no because I was thinking about competing them. Like, to me, like, that would mess with my conscience. You know what I mean? Like, that would be like,
for sure.
Why am I running from this guy?
And
So
especially too, if you're at the USA, if you're at the Olympic Training Center, you know, like
yeah. So, I mean, I've never thought that would be like, that would not be an issue to me, you know, to train with somebody that I'm going to compete with. That's pretty much what I did all growing up. Like, I would seek out, like I said, my dad would travel places to train with people. So.
And then do you try to bring people in now to Penn State? Like, I know Beckzad's there and Gomez is there, and I'm sure you're training with them. Do you try to bring in as many guys as you can, or do you try to keep it more of a tight-knit thing where, you know, there's only so many guys you want to train with on a regular basis?
Sometimes people come in, like Japan has been in before, and the guy that I wrestled at Beat the Streets was there, and, you know, we trained together. So like that kind of stuff has happened. But, you know, we already traveled to the Olympic Training Center so much. There's really not like a need to, like, hey, come on, like, contact somebody and say, come in and let's train together.
Right.
You know, and I got really fortunate at Penn State to have so many training partners to wrestle with. I don't really feel like a need to do that too much. But yeah, I would be open to it.
So, tell me now what your timeline schedule looks like. Are you taking any time off before you get back going in the grinder of things here?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird taking time off, especially after, like, you know, I lost one match and I was done out there at the World Championships. So, like, coming home on that note, it's weird taking time off. I know I need to, just because, you know, this Olympic cycle is going to come quick and it's not going to stop. It's going to be, like, pretty steady through next August. So
yeah,
just got to prepare for that now. And, you know, my body feels good, but I know like a little bit of time off will do me better than, you know, coming right back to work right now. So yes.
Have you ironed out, like, where you want to compete next, and have you, like, kind of finalized your plan, or are you kind of waiting for this period of, let me take a couple of weeks off and recuperate, and then we'll come up with a fresh game plan?
Yeah, I kind of like to, when I take time off, I like to, like, it would be like if I went on vacation, just like not think about anything wrestling wise. Like, I'm not even watching the match that I lost right now, just kind of putting it aside, and then when I'm ready to start getting back to work, that's when I'll start dialing in and you know, watching the techniques, looking at exactly what I need to work on, and doing all that stuff.
And so you haven't formalized your competition schedule then yet either, I'd imagine.
No, not at all. It's pretty short though. Like, I know I already qualified for the Olympic trials.
Yep.
You know, being a world team member, so there's not much to do. I know at some point I'm gonna have to qualify the weight for the Olympics.
Yep.
At some tournament before the trials. So, you know, just kind of keeping that on my radar. But there's not much else to do until then. So
it sounds like you can take a nice few weeks off, spend some time with your fiance, and then get back into the grinder of things.
Get back to the grinder. Yeah. Yesterday we were painting. Today I'm going to visit my family back home in Benton. I haven't seen in a little while.
Have you guys set a date for the wedding?
Going to do it after the Olympics. So looking at 2021, just kind of.
Oh, you're going to have a long engagement.
She has, she's pretty busy with her marine stuff as well. And just, it seems like a busy 2020, so we're just going to do it after.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's the opposite of what I did. We got engaged in May. We're getting married in 3 weeks from now. A 5-month engagement.
Dang. Was that a lot to plan?
You know, it wasn't. It wasn't. It isn't. Or wasn't.
Yeah.
The hard part about the engagement is, in my mind, the longer you have to think about something, the more stressful it is. The longer of a time you spend picking a venue, the longer of a time you spend picking flowers, the more time you spend on these things, the harder and more stressful it is. My thought process was, if you shorten that, and if we have to just keep making decisions, you're going to, no matter what, engagements are stressful. So I'm like, I'd rather have a 5-month engagement, get all that stress out of the way, and it forces you. Now it's over in 5 months. I don't care how stressful it is. Versus a year or 2 years, depending on how you come about things. And we're paying for this all 100% out of pocket. So it's not even like, the pro to that is nobody else can kind of dictate what we do. Where sometimes family members get in and they're like, well, you should really get married at this church. Well, you should really do this. Well, you should really have that. So it wasn't bad. It's we're kind of here 3 weeks out as of tomorrow. So most decisions have been made. We're just paying a few final bills and getting the seating charts down and all that, and then it's go time.
Then it's go time. That's awesome.
So
I don't know if it's. I guess I took the opposite, like the stressful. I like that though. Like a fast engagement. That's cool.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's not for everybody. Like, I'm 33 years old. I have a house. I'm, we want to start building this new house here soon. So I figured, you know what? Why prolong it? If I was your age and I'm competing in world championships and about to compete in the Olympics and all that, then I'd probably do what you're doing. Then I feel like it makes sense. For us, it's like, let's just get this done and over with and get married and be done.
Heard that.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I know you got to run here to the dentist, so I'm going to let you go, but I'll see you next Saturday, Traeger Scrap Life Cook-Off, and we're going to bring the heat. Bringing the heat.
Bringing the heat.
All right, cool, man. Well, thanks so much for stopping by today and making time when you're kind of taking some time off from wrestling. So we'll talk soon, man. Thank you again. And that's today's show. Thank you so much for listening. I've got some incredible guests coming up, too, so the good news doesn't end here. Be sure to subscribe and follow the show wherever you're listening right now. This podcast is available on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Overcast. Wherever you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to the Baschamania podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back. We'll be back next week with another episode.
And the beat goes on. On.